We'll go ahead and call the Thursday, May 28th Budget Work Session Special Meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here. And before we get started, I just want to take a moment of silence in recognition of former Commissioner B.R. King passed away today. And so I want to have a moment of silence in his honor. And we'll look to recognize him at a future meeting, as well as board. I'll look to have a proclamation done for him as well. So this time, if we can have a moment of silence for former Commissioner B.R. King. Thank you. We'll go ahead and move to the invocation and pledge. I'll ask Vice Chairman Jones to bring us the invocation and pledge.
All those that can, please stand at this time. Heavenly Father, we just thank you. We thank you for another day to serve our community. We ask that things be done in decency and order. We ask that you will lift all of our first responders as well as our military and all those that are community leaders and just all the families in Cumberland County. We ask for a special prayer for former Commissioner King and his for his family and those who are grieving from those of lost ones. And again, we just give you all the honor and praise for giving us the opportunity to serve and make decisions that impact our community. Lord, just again, ask us to be able to come together and unite, do things for the best interest, for a better quality of life for those that we serve. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before we kick it over to the manager, just board again, just want to highlight some things that I previously provided to you. You should all have an agenda, so by date, you'll know which items that we are covering from the budget. Later today, we'll give you an update on that to even give you the reference points in the budget so that you'll have that in preparation for each meeting. So each meeting, you know what we're going to cover. My goal, as I outlined, is to try to keep it to 2 to 2.5 hours. So if we've done our homework, we should be able to contain the items we need to cover during that time. I want to thank the staff for helping put that together as we look at the items we need to cover. Again, my intent is to have staff present any highlights. They're not going to brief us slide by slide. It's more to brief any highlights or certain points or decision points that they need. And then for us to ask questions on or discussion and make any decisions we need to make or anything we need to move over to the parking lot that we need to come back or a holding area that we can discuss later. And we'll identify those. Also, if we have questions, staff will keep a rolling list of the questions and provide those back to us. I also want to encourage you that in your preparation for each of these sessions, if you have questions in advance, please send those to our manager in the budget and Assistant Manager Shaw so they can hopefully provide that information either ahead of the meeting or at the meeting. My goal is to make these as efficient as we can and not just come in and get brief, but have a conversation. As the manager pointed out to us last week during his presentation, this is going to be a difficult budget process to work through. We have a lot of downward pressures. We have a lot of decisions we have to make as a board, and I know we'll do it in a very respectful manner in the discussions and dialogue that we have. So with that, I will open it up. I will turn it over for item 1, County Manager's Budget Overview Recap. County Manager Greer.
Yes, Chairman Devier and Commissioners, good afternoon. There's one item that we need to add to the agenda. We do need to add a closed session under NCGS 143-318.11A3, attorney-client privilege. Correct, Rick?
Correct.
Okay.
Two separate items.
And two separate items underneath that.
So before we, so we need to add, so we'll go ahead and move to approval of the agenda so we can go ahead and approve the agenda today.
Okay.
County Manager Greer, anything else to add beside so a closed session for attorney-client privilege?
That's it.
And that, Mr. Attorney, that what's the number again?
143, 318, 11, 8. Yeah,
I couldn't hear you.
143, 318, 11, 8, 3.
All right, any other changes to the agenda? Hearing none, Vice Chairman Jones, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda
I move that we approve the agenda budget meeting.
Second.
with the addition of the closed session for attorney-client privilege.
I move that we approve the agenda with the addition of the closed session, attorney-client privilege, 14338-11A, 3.
Second.
Got a motion to approve the agenda with additional closed session item. Been probably second. Any discussion or comments on the motion? Seeing none, I'll ask for your vote. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Unanimous.
All right, and now we'll go ahead and move forward to item 1, County Manager Greer's budget overview recap.
Yes, as part of the agenda, we have an overview, debt model and capital investment fund and the FTCC capital. But as far as the budget overview, last Thursday on the 21st, presented the recommended budget. The total budget for all expenditures totals $656,507,949. The recommended tax rate for the general fund is recommended to stay the same at 49.9 cents for $100 valuation. The general fund operating budget is recommended at $398,317,286, and 1 penny on the tax rate equals $4,069,793, and this can be located on page 15 and all in your budget book, and also all funds pages 81 through 84. And I'll take any questions anyone may have.
Board, any questions on the overview from last week? Or review of the overview? All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to item 2, Joint Planning Board Interlocal Agreement. County Manager Greer.
Yes, in a recent agenda session, we wanted to bring back, it was requested that we bring back consideration of positions for enhanced services supporting our local towns in the unincorporated area of the county. Ross Howard, Director of Inspections, Planning and Inspections, will present this item and answer any questions you may have. You also have the PowerPoint, and you should have a handout also that does the same thing. Ross?
Thank you very much, Mr. County Manager. Didn't have a formal presentation, so if you would, I just believe you have this in your packets, and also have a handout for you both. The last meeting that we had talked about this, there was a direction to come back with some estimates about hiring a full-time administrative assistant and a full-time additional code enforcement officer for my department. This was in regards to the proposal that we had put to the board in regards to enhancing services and coming up with a baseline standard cost for services that we provide for these towns. So if you look at the handout that I gave you on the left-hand side, both of these positions, the code enforcement officer and the admin position, are both at the same pay grade, so the salary is the same. So if you look in the lower right-hand corner, there are 2 highlighted figures. That's the salaries and the benefits included that we got from the Human Resources Department. It came out to $69,234.16. Since they're both at the same pay grade, that would be identical for both of these positions. We then transpose those salaries to the top of the 2 of the chart that you see up at the on the left-hand side of the chart, and then from there we just added things like desks, supplemental things that would go with the purchases that we have to make in order to set these folks up in our office. So bottom line, it came out to basically $150,000 if you want to look at it just in broad terms for both positions, if we were to go that direction. I'll try to answer any questions if you have any.
So real quick, County Manager, what you're looking for us for today, because I'm assuming this is going to be personnel, which we're going to talk about another day. What were you looking for today?
Just information today. We'll bring it back as part of compensation and have those conversations.
Okay. So board, it's information only. It's going to come back to personnel. Any questions on the information provided? Commissioner Tyson, recognized on Commissioner Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Howard, I noticed there wasn't any allocation for a vehicle, either in fuel cost or operating cost or procurement. Can you kind of opine on that a little bit?
Yeah, the only person that would apply to would be the code enforcement officer. The admin wouldn't need that. I think we could be able to absorb that in our current fuel budget. Yeah, because again, the idea being is that we're going to try to reconfigure, we're not adding, we're going to put more folks out into the field, but that's a good point, but we're going to be putting more people on the field, but it's really a reconfiguration of both office and field to try to be able to use our existing resources more efficiently. I think we could be able to absorb one more code enforcement officer with the fuel budget that we have right now, based off of the amount of travel that we have with our current officers now.
And you have enough vehicles in your fleet already?
We don't have a fleet. We do fuel reimbursements for people using their own personal vehicles.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Adams, recognized.
And I just have, and because I don't know what the grade 107 is, but it's kind of odd to me that the code enforcement who's out in the field doing all of this is making the same thing as an administrative professional who's, and I'm not downgrading that either, but it just seems either he needs to go up or they need to go down, but it doesn't seem to be comparable in terms of what their duties would be. You don't have to do that today. I just want to bring that. That's just, maybe HR can enlighten me at another day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. Any other comments or questions on this item? All right, thank you, Director Howard. Thank you, County Manager Greer. We'll go ahead and move to the meat of our meeting today, and we'll start on item 3, debt model. County Manager Greer.
Yes, today we have Doug Carter with DEC and Associates, Doug Carter, President of DEC and Associates, to go over our debt model, along with Robin Coons, our Chief Financial Officer. They'll do a presentation of the debt model. There's one item that we need to get a little clarity on regarding schools. We also have Jay Toling here, Chief Financial Officer for the Cumberland County Schools. And once we get clarity, we'll update the debt models, but we want to go over the debt models right now, what we see based on results of the past fiscal year. Robin.
Good afternoon. So we'll call up DEC. They're going to go over the gist of the models, but if you look at what's been shared up to this point, there's kind of 3 versions of the general government model, 3 versions of the education model. There's an A, B, C for each of those. The A for Gen Gov aligns with the A for education, so they kind of work together like that. And then we've also shared the Crown models also. The version that we're going to start with is version C. We're going to start with general government, if that's okay with everyone, because that represents the $460 million that the county has committed to Cumberland County Schools through an approval process. And then the other 2 versions are include the additional $150 million that has been requested, with just slight variations as to when the funds would be needed. So if you're okay with that, that's where we'll begin.
So real quick, so in the folder that was created for us on SharePoint, we're looking in the debt models under education, and we're going to start with A?
C.
C, I'm sorry.
C. And we were going to start with the general government first and then go to the education, if that's okay. Now, I will tell you, there's a couple, because we met yesterday afternoon with Cumberland County staff, just a couple of things that DEC, once they had more information from us, which they didn't get until very late yesterday, and of course they were driving here today, they made a couple of little tweaks on the revenue side of our general government model, just to, we had a higher year with lottery revenues in 25, and the model naturally carries that forward, and they brought that back down just to be a little bit more conservative. And then on the second adjustment, it was they didn't feel like we needed to increase the sales tax at the rate the model was showing previously, just knowing kind of how sales tax is right now. So if you see anything that looks off, that's what you're going to see a little bit different today. But with that, I'll turn it over to DEC.
Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the County Commission. Nice to see you again.
Good
First thing
afternoon.
I want to say to you is, I have 2 gentlemen with me that you know, Andrew Carter, who is the model genius, and Dylan, who will soon be the model genius. And he's working on it really rapidly. In fact, Andrew said to me the other day, I don't really need to go. Let Dylan go with you. Soon, I promise. In all these meetings, because we do a number of these, we sort of do a general start. Y'all have heard this. but I know you hear thousands of things a week or month, and so it's hard to keep all of it all categorized. So here goes. This financial model is very similar to what you would see to other sophisticated counties. It puts in one place resources and cost for you to do debt affordability analysis as well as to look at PAYGO. So we're looking at debt and PAYGO inside this model. You, as a county, started this model a number of years ago, and it's had multiple iterations. It started out as one model, and everything was together. And then we began to separate it so we could more fully look at what was being funded out of what was then known as the general model and the Crown model. We only had two. Now we have others. And so that was to inform you about how these resources were being used across the board. Number two, in the past, the county has had a policy and has moved excess fund balances or available funds into the debt affordability model, the CIF fund that contains the debt affordability model, and has allowed us to accumulate a significant fund balance. That fund balance was necessary in order for us to blend the use of that fund balance together with current revenues so that we could keep the impacts on an annual basis of what had to come out of the general fund into the model as reasonable/low as possible. So there's been a lot done in prior years, and I feel really good about that. You as a board have spent as much time looking at a debt affordability model as any board that we work with, and I applaud you for that. And I feel that you've really, on basis of the questions that have been asked at forum meetings, really get how this works, and I feel really good about that. In March-ish, and I forget which day, we talked to you twice in March. We reviewed the model virtually that time. We're here in person this time. In that last meeting, you moved us forward on several things. The first 460 for schools was approved. The increase at a minimum of 3% a year on the revenues that were coming from the general fund into the model. All of those I would call very good decisions were made. We've been working with that model together with Robin's help, and I really say to you, Robin knows this model. She runs her own, and then we coordinate them, and so I feel really good about that. Today, we were working on what we've received from the school board, and I give them credit for working on the cash flows. Folks, issuing debt is primarily a cash flow thing. We don't want a whole bunch of extra money in the bank that we're paying interest on, right? Even though today we can almost earn what it's costing us, that hasn't been that way for a very long time. So we want to borrow as little as possible, as infrequently as possible, right? And so in these models, what we have done over time is made assumptions, not only in the school model, but in the others, as to the frequency of the issuance of debt. Now, if I ask each of you today to vote, you would all get 100%. If we issue debt slower, what happens? We have more capacity. Y'all would have all raised your hand on that. So what we're trying to blend is issuing debt as needed, primarily on a cash flow basis, and issue it in a syncopated or planned fashion that will allow the most to be issued out of the money that you've dedicated, and ask you for as little as possible to do new things, okay? So with that, we're going to start with the general financial model, and then we'll move into the school model, which is the more complex and the one that has more to do with cash flows. I will say finally this. On the way down, we were making model changes between Charlotte and Fayetteville. And so we may see an oops up here. If we do, we'll recognize it. We've got a lot more to do on a private basis, speaking basis directly once this is over. And we do have from the school board the first roughly $300 million in cash flows that have been estimated. Unfortunately, in the time period since we got them in our meeting today, we have not been able to factor them into the model to determine if our issuance assumptions that we've been using in the past are close to right. We think that we're close, but we'll have to come back to you a bit later after we factored all of this together. Okay? Okay, with that, Andrew, you want to come forward?
Thank you, Commissioners, for having us here today. As Doug said, I'm more of the model guru, so I'm going to be going through the nitty-gritty of the numbers. Feel free to stop me at any time, of course, if you have any questions or don't quite understand an assumption or what we have up here on the screen. So as Doug said, y'all made some very good decisions in the last. You'll see up here 3% general fund transfer growth. That was done dependent more to the kind of growth and the inflation that's going on. So I think that has added to the capacity of the model, because before we were using a single number that had been transferred over every year that had not grown into the future. So very, very good news there. Also, very good news, as Robin and I have ticked and tied the model to the last ACFR as we would like it. I'm going to knock on wood here because I want it to be every time. We're pretty darn close on our projections to our actuals. So that continues to remain good news, that there's not any major movements from what y'all saw from March with ticking and tying it to the ACFR. We're relatively in the same place. A couple things have changed. But if we look here, as we will all remember, these models are almost all predicated on the revenues that are dedicated to the model coming in. So as you'll see in the past, we've had a pretty steady number that was coming in, and then y'all passed the growth of the penny. So starting in 27, you'll see that has gone up to that $8.7 million number. I think it was just a nice round number that we were getting to. And then that starts growing by 3% after that. Then you'll see on the first page, you'll see we are netting out the transfers that we have going over to the education model, and of course the water and sewer that we have currently right now. So these negatives here are to represent the transfers over. That then gets us, and you'll see Doug had mentioned this in the past, these are the transfers that we brought over from the unassigned fund balance during the good years where we had additional revenues. And so you'll really see in that first year when we had very high sales taxes coming in when we didn't expect them, right? The 2020-21 time period, we kind of cut budgets, but sales tax ended up coming higher than expected. And so y'all really started, this is where that fund balance is coming from, as you'll see. Over 3 or 4 years, y'all really packed away a good amount of money, which is really giving y'all the ability to do some more of these projects. Because as you'll see, we're going to have to use that fund balance, right, into the future to be able to support some of the other projects. Let's see if I can slide over just a little bit. I'll go back to the summary page. So when we look here in the total revenue column, you'll see it looks like it's jumping around or going down, but that's the net number, right? So the rest of that revenue is going to the other two models. So we still have revenues coming in this model. We have 1 year where we technically have more revenue coming in than going out. But we have our current debt service. You'll see that that's falling off here very quickly. The general government debt service will very quickly drop off from $5 million to about $1 million and have a slow pay down through about, 40, 41. But essentially almost no general government type of debt will be outstanding here. It looks like a pretty low amount. Then we have our PAYGO projects, and if we looked at the PAYGO page, that's a number of major projects that y'all are spending in cash to do. And so you'll see some pretty large PAYGO projects coming up. And then we reserve room into the future for some just general maintenance PAYGO projects that may be going around. So we want to reserve some of that into the future. Essentially, we get over here to the right, which gives us our capital investment fund. You'll see we're sitting at a pretty good amount right now, but we're going to have to use some of these amounts as our expenses do not meet our revenues. You'll see here into the future we have some other uses of that fund balance to go down. This is the C model, as we said, which talks to the school model, the C school model, which is the 460 number. And so you'll see with the transfers over to the school model and the C model, we remain healthy on the general government side, and we remain healthy on the school side as well. So because these coverage numbers are a little misleading, because as we have little to no debt outstanding, these numbers get pretty big because it's a calculation of fund balance to debt service.
Andrew, I just want to say one thing. If we didn't have these fund balances virtually none of the big projects in the schools could be done with our current revenue. And we'll see more of that as we get into those models. So the power of the use of fund balance is just incredible. In the old days, before we moved the funds across, we've always used the value of a penny, what this means from a penny perspective. And what happens in this without the use of fund balance, if we hadn't had the fund balances, you would have been raising and lowering revenues like a roller coaster to pay all of this. So here again, this is the beauty of levelized, which is really better for citizen equality, if you will, and fairness to do it this way. So thank goodness for the fund balances.
Lastly, we'll look at the PAYGO tab, as I mentioned. That'll show some of the major projects that we have in the PAYGO. There is, you'll see some of these here, mental health diversion, aquatics, the Civil War Museum, and some other projects that we have in here. That's what gets us to the major sizes of the projects you'll see in the 2260. That's just some of the projects there. Anyone do you want to highlight, Ron?
I did want to bring to the board's attention that we have over here our community college amount annually. We did line this up with the budget the recommended budget. The prior debt model, we were showing an additional $10 million that we were going to provide to FTCC if they got a match from the state. There was a building that they were wanting to redo. So that is no longer in here. And I just want to make sure that I highlighted that, because if you had a different desire, we would need to put that back in.
Another question. Thank you.
We're going to pause real quick. Any questions from commissioners so far as we look at this summary tab, PAYGO? Commissioner Tyson recommends.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So talk to us a little bit kind of the rationale of some of these projects being considered PAYGO projects versus, including them taking them out for debt. Specifically, I'm interested in FTCC, because that's a requirement that we fund their capital. And so why would we not treat that requirement with the same lens that we would treat our requirement to fund the school capital projects as well?
I believe, if history serves me right, when the model was developed, they had decided, I think at the time it was like 1,100, and they just kind of grew because each year their capital is not spent, and so it's reappropriated. I can't even remember how much it is this year, Robin.
Yeah, and I can speak to that. It was $900 and some thousand a year for years, and they just rolled it over every year, which we still do. They're getting $1.5 million a year now, and it still rolls over. I think they've got about $5 million right now you can see that's sitting there for 2025, $5.597 million that's sitting there for them to do smaller projects. In my time with Fayetteville Tech, that was sufficient. They did their bigger projects, like bond issuances, like the state. There was a lot of SCIF money and that sort of thing. So there really wasn't an ask historically that I recall where the county would like do a big debt project. It was more like fix a roof or replace an HVAC or that kind of thing. So the big thing that they asked for last year was to do half of a building. I think it was their Cumberland Hall. And the state was going to put $10 million in. We were going to match that if the state did it. And then, obviously the state budget didn't ever pass. So that's why I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
So, and that does kind of make sense for the community college, but, we just heard from Mr. Doug over there about the beauty of leveraging fund balance against debt issuance. And so what I'm trying to wrap my mind around is we've got some big buckets for some big CapEx that we're still slating for PAYGO, and why we wouldn't go out for debt for that and leverage some of that balance. I'm just trying to understand if it works for the school model or it works for the other model. Why would we not do that on some of these bigger ticket projects?
Mr. Commissioner, it's a very fair question, and it's a good question. I think there's two things about this. Some of these projects have been PAYGO for a while. Okay, they were just included as a PAYGO project for various reasons that the board wanted to do those for. The other thing I would say to you is, and we can continue to look at that, one or two of these projects perhaps, but when we're looking at a program of hundreds of millions of debt issued by a county that doesn't have much debt outstanding, from a credit rating perspective, especially when we've got some of the fund balance, to say we're not borrowing every dime, we're trying to blend PAYGO with debt. So it was both some prior decisions, Mr. Commissioner, that have been made, and a thought that as we go out and talk to rating agencies about issuing hundreds of millions of debt over the next 10 years, how did we do debt and PAYGO? We chose some projects that had been on the PAYGO and said, these are known, they're community projects, we have the fund balance we've accumulated, but we can certainly look at that. I wouldn't want to do little bitty ones. I will tell you the other thing is and the school board really has this, school board staff members, and I didn't say this in my beginning, but it's perfect here. Guys, we don't want to issue bonds every 30 days or 6 months or 3 months. It makes us look not very well planned. So, not more than annually for sure. Most of our large clients do every other year. To do a LOBS issuance, the Local Government Commission requires 70 to 80% of what you're going to issue to have bids in hand. So there's no such thing as creating a big old pool of money and drawing out of it. So part of the other thing about some of the PAYGOs is it just took some of the planning and integration of school debt and this debt. So it was a myriad of things, to be honest.
And I will add, the project that I do recall the county financed on behalf of Fayetteville Tech was the fire training center. So that's the most recent one I can think of. But historically, there was this transfer this amount allocated every year for smaller projects. Again, a lot of the college's needs were met through state bonds, and then there was just a huge influx of SCIF money. So I think they're just starting to come back to us now with some bigger requests than they did at one point in time.
And Mr. Chairman, that certainly does make sense. I was just looking at, over the next 3 fiscal years, it's over $100 million in PAYGO if you lump all these together. And that's not an insignificant amount of money. And that's the only reason I made that comment, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Anything else, Commissioner Tyson?
No, sir, I'm good. Thank you.
Just a quick comment on the FTC side. So with what we heard when they briefed us, $5.175 million in deferred maintenance need. They had about 2.5 already done, so their request for 1.5, they said capacity-wise could fit in that. And then the $10 million, they asked us again for that match. They did say that as the General Assembly gets through their budget, if it's not in there, that they would ask for that to be released. So board, that's something for us to think about based on their request to us that they briefed us when they had the lunch to brief us on. Vice Chairman Jones, you're recognized.
Yes, my question is, you pretty much answered them. I appreciate your question by the time I got to answer mine. But another question is, how long has this been in effect? It seems to be working pretty well with FTCC. And thank you for answering questions in regards to when it comes to the bonding. And you definitely explained a lot of good details for our community to be able to understand the reason why you all are using this particular method. And so I appreciate that because you answered some of my questions I was going to ask. So how long has this been in effect in regards to this particular policy and procedure with FTCC?
So I can speak back to about 20 years. For probably about 15 of it, there was a transfer of just between $900 and $1 million every year. And then it slowly over the last, I'd say 5 years or so, started inching up a little bit. So the model now shows that $1.5 million. Again, that's for their roofs that need to be, honestly though, $1.5 million doesn't really do a roof in a lot of cases anymore. So they accumulate that money and they use it as they can do projects. But again, it's just been such a different experience because if you look years ago, you know, you had the state bonds, once they were used up, they were gone, and there was just kind of a dry spell. But then there was this huge amount of SCIF money that came with COVID that just turned, you know, everything up from a construction standpoint at the college. And so I'm assuming that they're getting to the point where they're finishing up with that, and they've still got other projects. So I think you'll see something different now in what you're seeing in their ask, where they're wanting more dollars from the county to do other projects that are obviously not going to be met with a $1.5 million transfer every year, or appropriation every year.
Has there been any issues or any problems throughout this 20 years with this particular policy and procedure?
No,
Any
not that I'm
problems or
aware of.
issues?
Not that I'm aware of.
Any on you all's end? Thank you, that's all I need to know, thank you.
Commissioner Patel, you recognize.
I think, oh, he was going to say something.
Did you have a follow-up for Vice
Well, I
Chairwoman?
want to, when y'all, just one final thing I wanted to show you.
Was it in response to the Vice Chairwoman?
No.
Commissioner
I'm sorry,
Patel, you
I was talking
recognize.
to him and it came up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I do have a question. If we go back to the PAYGO items and look at every kind of bucket, if we were to potentially take out debt instead of use cash, would the interest rates change based on the project types? No.
No, we tend to hedge that out by using higher than normal interest rates. So we use 5% interest rates so that when y'all can feel comfortable that we're going to come in under that level. And so the model is somewhat agnostic to mode, whether it's a GO, whether it's a LOB, whether it's an installment financing. And because we estimate those interest rates high, we think we can meet those. And then when we actually do issuances, that goes into the model and hopefully gives you a little more capacity because we have been estimating high.
Right. So
I think I got your question, but stop me. LOBs issued for schools is considered more governmentally important, basic, than bonds issued for a museum, as an example. So your question was instructive, as I got the question. If we issued one thing by itself that was considered less governmentally important, then that might have a slightly lower rating and a slightly higher interest cost. Was that coming, Mr.
Yes,
Commissioner,
sir.
to your thought process?
Yes, sir.
I thought I got that. What we would always do is attempt to blend them so that the blending didn't leave any of the one that might be less credit-worthy, and I don't mean horribly,
Right.
but lower than a school, as an example. We would try to do blending so as not to pay any kind of a premium based upon the type of asset we're financing.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Adams, you recognize.
I think I got the answer to my question. But I was wondering about the 7 to the Civil War Museum, whether we paid, because we voted on that. I didn't know if we had paid that out.
Yeah, I think that keeps getting rolled.
We have not paid that out. In the prior model, that was split between 26 and 27, and it's not been paid out, so I just lumped it all into 27 in this model.
Right, so some of it gets pushed in because it hadn't actually happened yet, right? But we were reserving room for it. And I think Deborah made a good comment
The
as
Civil War
well.
Museum.
You know, some stuff we can't finance as easy as others. So single projects are easy to finance. Other things that might be considered maintenance or deferred maintenance, you know, that kind of stuff's going to be harder to finance. So we'd rather do it as cash than maybe some of these other capital projects. But you know, the museum's a good question. In previous models, I had a toggle that turned that from cash to debt, and we could do the toggle, and you could see exactly what it is. So we can build all that into here. Right now, the current direction we were given is that these projects need to be PAYGO, but if we want to show I can do a toggle for each one of these, and we can show all the difference. But we can definitely build that into the model. But these types of things will be a little bit easier to finance than maybe this, you know, than maybe these, and of course, a lot of stuff that falls in here. Falls in those buckets.
It was only a short time ago that I learned what a toggle meant. I can tell you the big numbers. Toggling, I don't do. That's it.
Thank you. Assistant Manager Shaw.
Yeah, I just want to clarify thing. On the CIF, the maintenance and repairs, years ago when we went to the LGC, they expected the county to set aside money each year because they saw that as deferred maintenance. And they turned down our application and said, go back to the drawing board. And that's how this model came about.
That's exactly right. That's part of the debt to PAYGO comparison.
IT projects, they expected that to be taken care of.
Thank you, Deborah.
Other questions on this model? board while we.
Mr. Chairman, can I show you one thing to be totally disclosed? Andrew, take us back to the summary page, please. Go to the lowest point of the capital fund. It only goes to this model. Let me say this to you. You know, we cut this off because it would go forever otherwise, just so it's easy to see. The capital investment fund will ultimately get drawn below these levels, but we've reserved it at a level that we think is important. County commissioners and others, I'm beginning to be just a little bit concerned. I had hoped we had turned the curve on inflation in construction projects, right? We had these huge ups, and all of a sudden, you know, guys, who ever thought that high school would cost $150 million? I remember when they were $75 million, and they were beautiful. So much of that was inflationary kinds of facilities and all that. So we're trying to preserve at the low end some fund balances that will give us a little room if somehow we turn back to greater inflationary trends in the construction industry. So I just want you to know that there's thought being given to that as part of the process. Okay, over to schools.
Board, any other questions on the general government side? So one question on the general government side, as we, county manager, as you build out our deferred maintenance on our own buildings, this is going to factor into our general government model. So is it prudent that we look at a placeholder that we put in place for our own deferred maintenance as we're looking at what we're doing on the school side?
I would say yes, but I would say for fiscal year 28.
I'm fine with whatever year, the question, wherever y'all want to put it, but do we need to put it and at what level so when we come back with an updated debt model on any changes that we have that in there? Board, are you following what I'm asking about?
Mm-hmm. I would say and we'll talk we'll talk a little bit in closed session. But I think we get the initial study done through PAYGO.
Yeah.
And then we can make an estimate of what we probably will need to do for fiscal year 28 if the study's done by then. But I think we'll have a good estimate once we have some historical data that we can come up with a good figure and try to, based on the assets that we have, we know where all the assets are. We know through some planning what the condition they are currently. We would just have to build out, based on inflation and other factors, a good estimate of what that is and put that in 28.
So board, are we comfortable as we move forward and they give us the next round, as we update each one of these debt models, that we let staff put that placeholder in there and let the county manager determine that number?
Yes.
All right, board, are you okay with that? It's going to give us a placeholder. I think it's important. Yes, sir, county manager.
And hopefully some things that we have to touch on later on in the meeting. I don't want to go get ahead of that because I think that will create capacity for the future.
I understand. I just think it's important that we put a placeholder in there like we did last year with the $300 million that we set aside for the schools. I think we've got to set aside our own money, and I think we need to do it so as we're looking in the out years, we're planning accordingly. Even though we're not going to know what that number is, but we can at least have a placeholder based on your best estimates as staff. Board, we okay with that? Okay. All right. We ready to move forward to the next model? All right. Where are we going?
Education, right?
Yes.
Education model C, right?
Education model C.
Yes, this is 16C,
Yeah.
the education
We did a
model.
renumbering on the right road down here. You may have a 15C.
Well, we presented
It's a C.
15s in March, so we want to
It's a C.
preserve, what we all showed you at certain times, so we
This
can
was
always
being
go
done in the
back.
car, and we said, let's not get real confused and start with new numbers.
Do our next.
Let me, so you'll know, there's been 100 or more of these models over time, so the numbering system is meant to try to keep them straight.
All right, so again, we'll start on the revenue page, because as we all know, a lot of these models are based on the revenues that are coming in. Robin had mentioned this earlier, you'll see we have some actuals from 24 and 25 up here. We're essentially keeping sales tax flat year over year, and it starts growing at a 1% pace. You'll see we had a little bit of a lift year last year, it came in about 3.9. The lottery is a little too unreliable to try to estimate those numbers higher. So we've kind of gone back down to what our previous numbers were, so as not to overdo revenue in this model in a certain sense. But if this comes in better, of course, it'll be reflected at the end of each year when we take a tie, and that creates our new basis for our projections. We're getting ready to have some of these monies are getting ready to go away and will be gone for forever. These were some older issuances of Q-scabs and Q-zabs and all kinds of Q different stuff.
And don't ask us what they were, we've forgotten and we didn't love them.
Qualified Zone Academy bonds and all lots of good acronyms. Everyone's
Qualified
industry
school
has lots.
construction bond.
Yeah, everybody has lots of acronyms in each of their businesses. So we throw them out a lot. If you don't know what they are, please stop me. So this money is getting ready to go away, but that supported some other previous debt that you had. Same thing, earnings in the sinking fund. Some of these require you to make monies in a sinking fund. You're earning a little bit of money off of it, help offset the debt. Those are getting ready to drop off as those financings drop off as well. We have a column here for interest. You will see that we've been gaining some interest here the last couple of years. If you look before that, those numbers are going to be very small, right? Because we weren't earning a whole lot of interest in the past few years. Although these past few years we've been getting a pretty good amount. We do not count that in the model. So right now, any interest earnings in the fund will be graded in the model as we go through, but we're not predicating our revenues into the future on interest earnings. We could get back to a point where we're earning 1 BIP in the fund.
Do you mind speaking?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So that the press can hear.
I'm sorry, I was a teacher in my former career, so I like to stand up next to the to the board and point. So I'll attempt to stay over here. And of course, we have this new column that we started generating, which is a transfer from the general fund. So if you look in the 16C general government model on that revenue page, these numbers should match up with what's coming over there. It feeds into here, which is why they're positive numbers, obviously. And so that gets us to the revenues we need in this model to support the 460 that we're looking. So currently, to support the 460, we still need transfers from the general fund model in order to make it, because the two revenues as currently supported do not quite make up all the bills. And you'll see in the high years, as we get out towards kind of the back end, once all the money has been fully issued and all the debt service is fully in, you'll see we have some higher numbers that then start dropping off, because under North Carolina law, they want you to issue this as what they call level principal, which is a falling debt service number every year. Unlike your home mortgage, which is considered level principal and interest, and you have the same payment every month from now on for the next 30 years. It provides for higher debt service in the early years, but you have falling debt service, which is supposed to build capacity. Those are the revenues that are in here that are supporting the school model. This, of course, these two, the first two, sales tax and education lottery, are by law have to be used for schools. So that's how we get our total revenues. This is, of course, with the transfers over. You'll see, again, a lot of the debt service for the schools is getting ready to drop off. This past fiscal year was a $5.2 million payment, 4.5 in the current fiscal year, and then it drops off pretty precipitously into the last three payments of the currently outstanding debt. We have a number of issues programmed in here. You remember Doug said that we got some additional information yesterday from the schools on cash flow. We're going to take that and try to more accurately line up the timings of when we need to issue the bonds based on their timings of spending the money as well. And so we'll come back with a small tweak to this. I think we're close, but it's just not quite exactly, with the numbers that we just got. So we feel pretty comfortable with this, but there will be some updates on timing. So this particular model has assumed that sometime in the calendar, and that's one of the things that'll be a little bit different when we talk numbers up here. That's usually a calendar year, maybe not the fiscal year that it's happened in, so the calendar year. So in calendar year 2027, we would issue $30 million. for various projects. In 2028, this model has another 190. I believe that supports a new school and some other issues. Then we had essentially just kind of taken some of the spending and attempted to, smooth it out over every other, every 2 years kind of issuance. So we got 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, and that gets them 60 million tranches about every 2 years to be able to spend on the project. Again, we will take the new spend schedule that we've got and make sure it kind of matches up with this on timings. But we think we're pretty close at this point. Want to turn your attention over here as well. We have some pretty big years of PAYGO here in these last couple years, and then we drop down to a level that we hope will still be enough to do maintenance, deferred maintenance, paint, that kind of stuff, paints and floors, while also being able to support new facilities and some of the other larger deferred maintenance is probably in these numbers as well, right? So what was probably being supported more by PAYGO, annual PAYGO, for fixing up the schools, we may have some new schools, we may have done some major PAYGO, so we're hoping that this number will be sufficient to do the other types of even smaller kind of PAYGO items. That's the expenditure side of this. Doug, did you have something?
So,
This is not the summary page. Yeah, it is summary.
so can we pause here and
course.
it's probably a good, we're gonna have some discussion around this, because we need to look at the additional ask and request that the school board has made of us. So I'll open it up for commissioners' questions so far. Questions on this? Commissioner Tyson, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you. This, to me, makes a lot more sense, because you're level setting the PAYGO project, and that was kind of my comment on the other model. Applying that similar methodology instead of having it look like that. That would be something but I wanted to applaud you, because I like the fact that we've gotten input from our school board and from our school system, and kind of really narrowing down in what we promised them we would do, and then what we're gonna actually action on that. So that's my only comment, Mr. Chairman.
So, board, just, if there's any other questions, the piece of this that is not there, so as we were briefed by the school board, the additional ask based on their new construction, based on the consolidation, reorganization that we talked to them about last year that they went through, there's an additional $150 million ask by the school, and that gets E.E. Smith and 4 other schools, new construction on them. That includes Grays Creek, that includes J.W. Kuhn, that includes, I gotta remember the other ones. Got it somewhere. Anyway, so that includes 4 other schools. So we need to have a conversation around the additional $150 million so they can factor that in. My understanding, County Manager Greer, the conversation you and the school board staff, that y'all came together, the model they gave you has that 150, so you're able to look at the annual requirements for that, so we can factor that into this model?
It had the part of it, not completely. It was broken up between the additional 150 and some addition. It's broken up in 3 tranches, about 98 million for the first 300. I want to say a little bit over 20 for the second, for the 160, and then for the new money, or the 150, was approximately another $180 million, or somewhat, yeah, $180 million in between the two. Total up to be about $290 million if you looked at it, just generically saying I think it's 595 minus $300 million. So the caveat to that is, we hadn't run it through the debt model to look through that, but we did say that we had to get approval from the commissioners because it hadn't been approved, but we do have scenarios that we'll go through.
So just to finish what I was saying, so you had the information you need. If the board says, yes, we want to move forward to look at the 150, look at the model, you have the information you need from the school board to do that?
Yes.
Or that's not school board, it's the school system. Okay, thank you. Vice Chairman Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we have someone from the school board here, correct? Just out of curiosity, I'd like to know, can you repeat that? How many schools are they anticipating on building again? New schools to include East Smith? And how many are going to be elementaries? Does anybody know, or do you know? Is it okay for me to ask the school board member since he's here? Is that all right with everybody?
Mr. Tolan, are you okay?
Are you okay?
Can you speak?
E. Smith.
Will you come up to the mic, sir? I'm sorry, just so we got press. I believe it's J.W. Kuhn Elementary, Ferguson Easley, Stedman Elementary, Grace Creek High as an addition, and then E. Smith.
If he could elaborate, I appreciate that, but since you're here and you represent them.
Yes, ma'am.
But I did thank you. So I have another question for you real quick.
Thank you. Jay Tolan, Finance Officer, Cumberland County Schools. Chairman Devier hit the nail on the head. J.W. Kuhn, E.E. Smith, and those were the first two schools included in the information given to county staff yesterday. Then you would see Ferguson Easley and Stedman, and then in addition at Grace Creek High School.
Okay, and so E. Smith and J, is that the order you're going to do the schools as well?
That is the order that we have. Yes, that's what the school board has approved.
Okay, great. And so do you know any time frame on when you all plan on starting this project? I mean, for any of the schools, it's going to be 2028. Do you know, just estimate, what's the anticipation on when you all are going to be starting with the two new schools, is what I would like to know.
Absolutely, and we shared that in detail with the staff yesterday. So it really.
I just haven't got that information yet.
No problem.
Thank
And, I don't want to get in front of county staff,
Right,
but
it's
it's all
okay.
about how we're ready to go. We need to do RFQs for architects.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any drawings or anything. We have sites for the first two schools because we're going to build them where the existing school is, right? So that part is squared away, but we don't have any drawings or anything, so we would need to really get going with RFQs for architects, design, and things like that. So we're in conversation with the county about how to get that funding going, because it can be substantial initially. And as you can see, the debt might not be issued for a couple of years because it's a 2-year process to build a high school like E.E. Smith. And then it's about a year and a half to do a J.W. Kuhn type elementary. But we're ready to do that bidding process whenever the cash flow is there.
I'm sorry, did you say that you all are looking at the existing, as of now, the existing places for East Smith? I just want to make sure
Yes,
I
ma'am.
heard that correct, and we do have our community listing. Same
Yes,
with
ma'am.
that's correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. That's pretty much all I need to know. And I guess I was asking the time frame because I know that's the plan for now, but just going to keep it transparent. We know how sometimes plans change, and that's why I want to know if it was this year or next year. And, different boards say different things. So thank you that's the plan for now. Thank you for the information, sir. Appreciate it. That's all. Yeah, that's all I want to know.
Commissioner Patel, you're recognized. I'll come back to you, Commissioner Adams, for round one, then back to you, Commissioner Tyson, for round two. Commissioner Patel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this question is probably for Mr. Greer. So looking at the debt issuance per year starting in '27, we've got 30 and 190. What were the numbers that you had mentioned with the new information that you got from the school system? Or are we still looking at taking out that amount of debt?
Because Robin has it right here. Go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, I'll do my best. So this model, again, is the $460 million, which doesn't account for the J.W. Kuhn. So we have to kind of get into that model to see that, and we have that. We just started where we ended up on an approval basis. But in looking at what the county school system has asked for, when you look at their MGT study that was done and the things that are recommended to happen in 2027 is somewhere about 17 or 18 million dollars just for that. And then there's about, I think, another, it's in one of my models, I don't have it written down, but there's about another 30 or 40 million in year two, which will be 2028. So we have that we would have to account for, but also they would need planning dollars. So I will need to come back to the board, hopefully in June, if it depends on how you decide to go with J.W. Kuhn or 460 versus 610, bring a reimbursement resolution to you so we can go ahead and start allocating funds to Mr. Tolan's team so they can go ahead and start doing all the planning, because they are scheduled right now to plan for E.E. Smith and for J.W. Kuhn in the 2027 year.
Could I make one comment there, Mr. Chairman? The Local Government Commission will not allow us to borrow money for planning only. And one thing that we've talked to the county about in the past that we've done with a number of other clients is perhaps establishing a planning fund that y'all would agree to. We pay the planning money out of that, and then when we issue bonds, we replace it. So there's going to be a lot of planning money. We can't borrow for that up front, so we're going to have to use our fund balances for that as well.
Commissioner Patel, anything else?
No, Chairman, I think once we get a clearer picture, that'll help me on this model.
Commissioner Adams, you're recognized.
And I guess, because I'm hearing an additional 150, which goes back to, I guess, the question that you asked about our fund is our own deferred maintenance. So do we look at doing this 150 before we even have some kind of idea of what we need to do as a county for county maintenance? We've done this part, and that's up front to be able to do, but I think that we need to see that in terms of our deferred maintenance before we start talking about another 150. That's just me.
Anything else, Commissioner Adams?
No, sir.
Commissioner Tyson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And,
Round two.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to apologize. I wasn't able to make the school meeting. I was fighting an illness, so I'm a little bit behind the 8 ball here. But just for clarity for everybody listening and for myself, the $460 million that we had already allocated, my understanding was there was $150 million that we had slotted towards new school construction. in that number.
160.
160, okay. And then the rest of that was for the deferred maintenance that we were going to go through with the plan. So is what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, is the 160 plus 150 plus the deferred maintenance number is where we're at on the request?
On the request from the school board, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So to Commissioner Adams' point, I think it's kind of hard for us to look at numbers that we're not really going to look at. And we've asked for 2 different. So we've got the data yesterday from the school board. I think it would be helpful that we look at both scenarios at the same time. So County Manager, we get the placeholder for general government, but we also go ahead and factor in the 150 for the school board so that we can look at it. If we don't factor the 150, then if we're funding a new school and it's based on their model as E.E. Smith, we're going to have to add an additional $10 million to that. So I think we look at, my recommendation would be let them model the 150 because they've already started that. So you get a 460 total for the new construction. 310 total for new construction, 300 for the maintenance, and then add in the general government placeholder for the maintenance of our own buildings, so that when we're looking at this, we can look at it in totality. Okay, Vice Chairman Jones.
Thank you,
round
Mr.
two.
Chairman. I'm in agreement. I'm not sure if I was out sick as well, but I have some concerns. I don't know if I want to figure in the $150,000, and to be quite frank, I have some other concerns. I'm all for teachers in the school system, but I will address those at the appropriate time. I'm not so sure if I need to review the information as they stated. I guess I appreciate the staff getting the information yesterday, but we commissioners didn't have opportunity to look at all that information, although I appreciate the school system providing that. So I'm not really comfortable. I don't know if we're going to take a vote at this point if that's the route I want to go. Because even with E.E. Smith, since we are discussing the matter, even if it does mean that they have to invest more money, $5 million, $10 million, my personal and professional concern, if that's what needs to be done, they're well overdue anyway. We've got Great Creeks, and I'm out there, Jack Britt area. So even if we have to invest more at E.E. Smith, and who knows, to be quite frank, we are in the middle of political season. The new board or whoever we don't know is going to be on there, they might come in and say something different. We know things can be flipped based on board members. So I would just say maybe we can hold off or put that on pause, but I'm not for making a decision for them to do that at this time. That's just me personally.
So, Board, could we do 2 things? Because I think we need to have the data in front of us to be able to make a decision. So we all agree to the general government. We've already agreed to that. So we need to add the placeholder for our own maintenance of our facilities. could you provide us the model based on the school board's numbers that they gave us yesterday that includes the 150, but also give us a model that doesn't include the 150? And then we can make a determination off of that.
Yes.
Is that, board, are we okay with that? You're getting both models. You're not making a decision right now until we see the information. What we're getting is all the information in front of us. Are we okay with that?
Yes. I feel like we
I
don't
need
have
one
all
more,
the
I need one more
information.
head shake. Are you good with that, Commissioner Adams? Commissioner Fairclough?
That's fine with me.
Okay, all right. Commissioner, or Manager Greer.
This is a rough estimate, so I just want to make sure, I just want to say, our total number of assets that we have for general government that would be considered for any facility study based on June 2025 is approximately $350 million with inflation on it. So I don't know what the number would be after we go through the study, but I would say a placeholder, at least 75% of that would probably be a good number to move forward with as a model to look at for general government facility replacement, deferred maintenance at a larger scale.
So again, before we go deeper into debt models, because we need to see the one we're going to approve.
I agree.
I think we need to add, as we've already agreed to, add the general government, show us one education model with the 150, one model without it, based on what the school board has, the information, the cash flow that the school system has provided you. Commissioner Adams, you have a comment?
Well, and I hadn't seen, and I agree with that. But on that additional that they asked for yesterday, because they were opening and closing schools, I don't know where they are on that. They changed some, they did some. So this 150, and I don't have a problem with it being a placeholder. I would need more information what this 150 is, because just to say you want 150.
So that's what, when we had our joint meeting, and I know a lot of people weren't able to attend for multiple reasons, sicknesses and out of the country and everything else. That information was sent that day to the board, the presentation, and all that information's in there. Board, if you would like, I can ask the school to come quickly do an overview of that, if we'd like to. It's in the presentation, if you'd like to.
Yeah.
What's that?
I would like that.
The presentation?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I ain't got mine.
Okay.
I don't need the presentation.
We do have a calculation with the 150. Would you like to see that, just the education, or do you want to hold till we have both?
I think we need to look at it all at the same time.
Gotcha.
Because at that point, I think you're going to want a decision from the board so the staff's not moving back and forth between two different models.
I agree.
I just think it's cleaner if we do it that way.
I agree.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you want us to show fail tech? Do you want us to show the $10 million or?
So the question is do we want to continue to put a placeholder in on the $10 million for Fable Tech based on what we did last year? So it's only a matching, so when the budget passed, in my understanding, they're going to pass a budget before the end of this month, so it may not matter. But we put a placeholder in for that $10 million, and if it's not in the budget, then it gets pulled out. Vice Chairman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I have a question too, this 150 for maintenance, we're talking about new schools, all these different things. And I know that he stated that the current locations, E. Smith and J.C. Kuhn, I guess they took all that consideration. Would that maintenance number change in the event? I'm not saying it will happen, but what if they decide they're going to put it somewhere else? Would that configuration change what they're asking for, or does anybody, or does the school board member have? In other words, right now they're saying E. Smith's going to be in its current placement, and so is J. But that might be subject to change, and if it does, would that change what the request would be, or the amount for maintenance? Can anybody answer that question?
Yes, ma'am. I can probably answer it, and we can ask Mr.
Yeah, can you tell us what your thoughts are on how would that impact you? I mean, he's serious representing, so we might as well allow him to do his
understand that,
job
Vice Chairman.
respectfully. That way it's coming straight from him, if you don't mind.
It was briefed to us at the meeting and
But
in
I
the
wasn't at the
presentation.
meeting, and we might as well utilize him while he's here.
I'm asking him to come forward,
Thank you.
Madam Vice
I
Chair.
appreciate it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Tolan, if you'll come forward. And again, board, I want to remind you, if you don't have the presentation or need the clerk to resend it to you, she'll resend it during this meeting, so it'll be in the top of your inbox. Mr. Tolan, if you'll respond to the Vice Chairman's question, please.
Yes, sir. So twofold. So the board has already voted on the location, right? So that we're ready to go all cylinders once the county approves the funding. Now, obviously, if that changes, which we don't have anything forecasted that it would change, it could change the cost of it. But the board has voted, and we've submitted the plan that we're going to build those schools if the county approves the funding, right? Because you all control the money on those sites. That's been voted and done.
Thank you, I understand that, but we all are aware that site changes can happen. It's happened even here, so that's why I wanted to ask that question. New board might come in and decide something else, so that's why I think it's a legit question. I mean, it's happened even here, example, the Crown, so, I mean, I know that's what you all have planned now, but you just don't know. November's a different election, so I appreciate the honesty.
Right, and I would defer to the manager. I think you all could dictate that.
Vice Chairman Jones, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Mr. Attorney, or Attorney Morefield, just an update. So one of the conversations we've had, and one of the things that I asked you for, to be prepared to brief the board, to the Vice Chairman's point, as we're looking at this new construction dollars, which are outside, there's mechanisms, and I talked to the school board at the school board meeting about this, provided you this a couple weeks ago, just so you have the framework to talk about it. But I believe it would be the intent or the thought for this board is that there'd be some type of agreement. So as we look at spending, as we look at investing these additional dollars in new construction, there's a mechanism that is between both boards to ensure the things that the boards are agreed to stay in place.
You want some comments on that now?
Yes, sir, just briefly. I know you need to look at it in more detail, but just if there's feasibility to do those types of things.
As you accurately pointed out in the little memo that you put together on this, the strongest tool that there is actually the debt instruments. And we already have some of those outstanding with existing schools. That's the reason the county is the owner of some of these school properties and has agreements on that. And that absolutely binds a board all the time or in the future for as long as those debts are out there. We can do an interlocal agreement with the school and lay out a plan like this. And to the extent that we in this year, or in the same year that we do it, issue any debt with respect to it, that's absolutely covered. And we've sort of done this in the past with respect to the old sales tax funding agreement. And it worked for a long time, but there was always a way out of it in terms of that. It's difficult to bind a board in the future to something other than debt. There is a mechanism by which we can do a resolution for funding to the school board for construction stuff. That's rarely used, but that's something we can look at more, and it would probably be more appropriate for some of the maintenance type stuff or the things that you're talking about that are not new construction. But again, that would only become effective once that resolution was adopted and the school had started the process for those projects. Capital projects, the ordinances that you're familiar with in our budget process are always there. But as you probably have already seen in the year and a half that the new board members have been on here, and the other board members, boards can transfer funds out of those unless they are actually obligated. Boards can transfer funds into different accounts from those and for different purposes. But that's sort of we got enough to work with. We just get the plan together.
I'll go back to Commissioner Tyson and Commissioner Adams for round three.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could comment first on the school system and then comment back to your original question about FTCC, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman. So the first, comment I've got about the school, I mean, we're looking to plan, if you look at this 10 years out on issuance. So the debt model, in my mind, is just a planning tool. We're not actually going out and pulling debt today or tomorrow. So to the vice chair's point, yeah, it can be adjusted as we adjust the model, just like we adjusted the models last fiscal year. But I guess what I'm trying to understand, we've got a $30 million issuance in 27 and then a $190 million issuance in 28 under our current plan. Just on those two issuances alone, we know, based on the estimate we've gotten from the school, we could fully fund the school construction at E.E. Smith with just that issuance. So if you've ever been involved in a construction project, which we all have, you know 12 months to get a project done and to get all the money dispersed, you just don't normally see that. So I guess I'm just trying to wonder, one, 10 years from now, would we have adjustments to our deferred maintenance plan that we've already put in place? Because there may be other school realignment that happens within that 10-year period. So again, we've got that as an estimate. But two, as long as we can provide the funding that the school needs when they need it, that's really the big question. The amount of money is, I mean, that's good, it's a good planning tool, but we don't have any firm figure, hard money numbers in place to say, this is what it's gonna cost. It's just a planning estimate. So that's what I would say is, I wanna look at the debt model because I wanna see if we go out 10 years and we were need to appropriate that money, which I would think would be the top end of what we would have to appropriate, it may come in here or here. 10 years from now, we don't know what the cost of construction is gonna be. So that's my comment about the school model. The FTCC, I just think, you know, their request that I saw in the presentation was for $47 million in capital requests. My concern is, we know from the manager that we're looking at a pretty big number on our own facilities for deferred maintenance. We know we've got a big number with the schools. I think it would only make sense that we start planning and having something around how we're gonna address this 47 million going forward so that that doesn't balloon to 100 million. And then we're trying to figure out how we're gonna fund that as well. So that's my comment about the FTCC. I think we ought to plan a little further out and not just rely on Raleigh to say, if they pass the budget, we're gonna do this, because we're just kicking the can down the road if we do that.
So my understanding from the FTCC and the county manager bureau, you can address it if I'm incorrect. So the Cumberland Hall, which is, so their ongoing deferred maintenance is $5.1 million. That's ongoing. The 1.5 will fulfill that deferred maintenance needs and keeps them on the path they need to. They're looking at what they do with Cumberland Hall. They're asking us, as they believe it's a part state and part us responsibility is what they're trying to do. So they put that model in. They may come back next year if the state says no and ask us for the entire amount. But right now, they're asking us for $10 million to match what the state's doing. The other piece of that was a public-private partnership for Health and Wellness Center at FTCC that they had just started planning on. So that the rest of those dollars were against that Health and Wellness Center. So their real ask is around the $10 million match and a 1.5 to keep their CIP at the rate, the only rate they can do the maintenance. So the ask is, do we want to factor in that additional $10 million and then either put it as a pay-go or something for now as a placeholder, and I would put it as a pay-go as a placeholder, and then if they don't, if it's not in the budget, then we pull it off the pay-go and we have future conversations with them about what they want to do. That would be my recommendation, board, but I'm one person.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Adams, you're recognized round three.
I believe we put the 10 million in. It's not like you're spending it and we'll know by the end of June whether they got it or not. And you can take it out, actually, maybe before we do our budget. So, but we can always do the debt model. The issue I have, though, is looking at this issuance from the school system is why J.W. Kuhn is getting built before E.E. Smith. The E.E. Smith has been on there forever. They're both in design and preliminary work at the same time. I do understand you got to move some stuff to Reed Ross, but I'm not in, that just doesn't align with what this board has talked about for a long time in terms of the E.E. Smith. And that's in there, what they sent us. And the design's at the same time.
Commissioner Adams, I appreciate the comment. I think we could have had some dialogue around, and I understand people around the country, so I just don't. But I do think, County Manager, we have a conversation with Superintendent Bracy, and we probably need to address this at our next meeting on the front side. And board, what I'd ask is them not go through a presentation, they can give us some highlights. Please read the presentation, and then those kind of questions we can direct to the school board, or to the school superintendent and his staff, and let them respond to that, or the board chair, however they want to present it. Yes, sir.
Chairman, in talking with,
Versus putting the CFO on the spot.
I think we had a good initial meeting yesterday. I think I have a general solution for, that can meet the school's needs and meet the county's needs. We just need to get together and kind of work through it over the next couple of weeks along with DEC. But I think we can get to something that both the school board and the county can agree upon without the 150 right now. With the initial 460, based on what the information we received yesterday, I think we can kind of work through that to meet everybody's needs.
So board, I think it's because of the attendance, I think there's still some questions around the school, and I don't think that's a question for our staff. I think that's a question for the school system, and I don't think it's fair to ask their CFO to answer those questions when they don't have the full staff here, especially our superintendent. So if we can, maybe we move through this. We've seen the debt model. We move through it. We've got some questions for the staff at our next budget meeting, or as quickly as we can at the next one. We get somebody from the school board here. Board is prepared to answer any question, to review the presentation, bring your questions, and we'll bring somebody from the school board here to answer those kind of questions that we're getting right now.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I just, to me, because I don't want to put them on the spot either, can we just email whatever questions we have in advance?
Sure.
And that way it's a whole lot easier.
Yeah, email
instead of
everything.
putting people on the spot when they got to try to answer something and their board's not here. That's all.
Email questions you can, but of course, I'm sure there's going to be questions that come up as they're briefing, or that you may have on the spot. So, County Manager, if you can coordinate with Superintendent Bracy, and we can try to get them in on our next meeting, and we'll talk about our next meeting before we break, because I know one commissioner has a conflict. I want to make sure nobody else does. So I think we can move past the school model because we're not going to see it. So, but before we do, consensus to go ahead and put Fayetteville Tech 10 million in PAYGO for the model. Consensus, good. All right. So we got three things on the model, on the modeling standpoint. I know we still got to look at one more, right? No. All right. So we've got we're going to do the placeholder on the general government. You're going to give us two models on the education, one with the 150, one without. And in both of them, we're going to add in the 10 million for FTCC. Okay. All right. Board, we good? Any next? What are we moving to next?
Next, we will move to the capital investment fund. Deborah Shaw, assistant.
Do we have one more?
No. We got to talk about that.
Okay.
So we next we have the capital investment fund. We'll first start off with debt service, and I'll turn this over to Deborah Shaw, Assistant County Manager, Chief Budget and Performance Officer.
All right, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Before you is the total capital investment fund of $50,227,659. I will be going through each of these. If you have any questions, just stop me if you will, and I'll be happy to answer anything. Currently, our debt service as of this year for the capital investment fund is a little over $5.7 million. Any questions? Yeah. Again, Fayetteville Tech Community College, we have recommended 1.5 as the placeholder for the capital investment fund. That's what we did for the conversation. Preliminary capital. This is what we have right now showing, and we do need some clarification. We have the planning and design for future projects. $500,000 of that is for the feasibility study for the aquatic center. The Spring Lake Parks and Recreation, we have a remaining amount of $3,912. In talking with Assistant County Manager Phillips, I believe this project is done, so we could remove that with the board's direction, drop that down into the capital investment fund balance. We have the Cedar Creek at $2 million, Farmers Market at 2.5. Again, general, a government complex design. This has been carried over from years past, but I still need direction to remove it and drop it into the fund balance. Civil War and Reconstruction Museum, 7.5. Cape Fear Valley, we have not paid the $3 million yet because we don't have the contract. So I went ahead and budgeted the $3 million for 26 and the $3 million additional for FY27. Cape Fear Regional Theater, that contract was revised. We've already paid the 1.7, and so this year I've budgeted 1.7 for FY27. It was a 2-year contract that was revised. Black Voices Museum, since the recommended budget, we have had an additional invoices come through, so I will be taking that down to $59,107.78 is left on that project. Do you have any questions for me?
Vice Chairman Jones, recognized.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Black Voices Museum, out of curiosity, what is the projected amount that the county is investing overall so far in that project?
We had a budget of $450,000.
No, it's not for now.
Commissioner Patel, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. ACM Shaw, just to clarify, so they're kind of looking at the prelim capital, you're suggesting potentially we can go ahead and drop the Spring Lake Parks and Rec, the International Farmers Market, and potentially the government complex design back into the CIF?
Yes, if that's the direction of the board. I know the 9,000, I don't believe we're moving forward. There's nothing to move forward with it. And then the $3,912, that project's done. And then the International Farmers Market, if you want that, I just need direction from the board. If there's anything else that needs changing, I was going to ask for the $3,912 to be changed and the $9,000.
Okay. I've got you both. Anything else, Commissioner Patel?
Not right now, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Tyson, I'll go to you for round one and then back to Commissioner Jones for round two.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess my question would be, can we get an update on where we are with some of these projects? Because I feel like some of them we've been carrying for a little while, and I don't know what the status of some of these projects are, like the community center or the farmers market. So it's hard for me to say, hey, I want to still include this without knowing, have we gotten anywhere with it?
We are prepared for that. And on the Cedar Creek, I can have Assistant County Manager Phillips come up and speak to that.
Good afternoon. So for the Cedar Creek Community Center, that is part of the closed session item where we talked about land acquisition with Assistant City Manager Gibson.
Gotcha, okay. Also.
Yes, I do.
On the International Farmers Market, we're waiting for the transfer of the land from the city to FSU. Once that's done, that'll be moving forward. Anticipate that to happen this upcoming fiscal year.
Commissioner Tyson, anything else?
I think that's good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman Jones, recognized. Round two.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On my round two, International Farm Market, a lot of work was put into that by former Commissioner Jimmy Keefe. So no, I'm not in favor, and thank you for the question because we had pretty much the same question. If we could get some details on these projects. I'm not in favor, and I appreciate the update of moving any of that money. I felt like there was a lot of work put into that, bringing to our community, and whether it does or does not go forward to FSU, I would like for, and I appreciate that, Mr. Greer, that looks like it's going to move forward. But if it doesn't, I will be doing, I can tell you all this right now, to carry on former Commissioner Keefe's vision for this, to see if we can look into other allegations if it doesn't go through. So I would like for us to just keep that money right where it is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioners, anything else? Commissioner Adams, you recognize.
And I would say on the government complex design, possibly not to call it the design, but the feasibility as to trying to figure out how to move out of this building because of the court system and all that they have here. So you wouldn't be designing it, but you got to figure out if you where you move it to or whatever you do on that.
I don't know if $9,000.
Thank you, that's what I was getting, that's what I was getting ready to
Well, you
say.
need to drop that, you just got to add something to it, Mr. Chairman, but anyway.
What I would say is maybe we bring that back and say, what's the feasible cost?
Yeah.
One question I have around what Vice Sherwin asked around the International Farmers Market. I believe that dollar amount, there's also
Freed up capacity
as well. And so there's another $3.5 million attached to that. Because this is $3 million, I'm sorry. So, because it's a $5.5 million project.
Yes.
So just, it's connected in both places.
Right.
And so I
Yes,
want
sir.
to make sure people understand that. And again, there's moving pieces, as the manager alluded to, with Fayetteville State and the city and some pieces along Murchison Road. So anyway, anything else on preliminary capital? So we're going to go, board, we want to look to go ahead and remove the Spring Lake, remove the government complex, it's $9,000, and then the Black Voices Museum will get adjusted based on the invoices that came in. And we hold everything else for now. We can have future conversations once we get the freed up fund balance if we want to do anything else with the rest of that. Is that acceptable, board?
That works for me, sir.
Okay.
If
All right.
you provide us that total, because I might spend it somewhere else.
No, it moves back to
I know, I just want to know what the total was.
it moves back to your investment fund.
You know me now.
Next, we're going to move into the capital improvement plan, and Assistant County Manager Faith Phillips has been overseeing the engineering department, so I'm going to have her come up and present.
Good afternoon again. I will be brief. As ACM Shaw mentioned, I have been helping out our engineering department during the day-to-day with this transition, with General Manager Amanda Lee providing some technical assistance on the engineering side of things. So just briefly, I want to update you on 3 key areas. I am not going to go through everything on the slides. I will show the slides and then ask if there are any questions, and we can talk about any specifics you may have. But I would want to highlight capital projects that we have completed, projects currently in progress, and then recommended capital improvement projects for fiscal year 27. So with that, I do have with me Amanda Lee is here somewhere today. We've got Donna Griffin-Rice, our engineering project manager, here as well, and Jeremy Stefenko with Internal Services. If you have any questions on the technical side, they can help me answer those questions. So across our 11 completed projects, we have 11 that have been completed. We have invested $2,314,019.11, and these completed projects span from fiscal year 23 through fiscal year 26. Here is the first bit of them up on the screen. And if there are no questions on these, I will go to the remaining. So in summary, this year the team has successfully completed 11 capital improvement projects, some of which have been in progress since fiscal year 2023. I just want to say that I appreciate the team's work and collaboration to bring these projects to completion. So there are no questions here.
We've got a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Vice Chairman Jones, you're recognized, and then I'll go to Commissioner Patel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe it's coming your next slide. I know we did a lot of talk about elevators and just any update. Is that going to be on one of the slides?
That's on the next slide.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That's good.
Commissioner Patel, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. ACM Phillips, so with the remaining funds, since these are all completed projects with a little bit over 1.24, where does that money now go back towards?
Goes back in the fund balance.
Okay, thank you.
Or during the year, it does go to a reserve line in case another project comes in under, we can just pull that
Over.
money.
Over.
But we bring it back.
Thank you. I just want clarification.
Okay, Commissioners, any other before we move forward?
All right.
AC Phillips?
So these are now our projects in progress. We currently have 25 active projects in progress. They're in various stages such as engineering, scoping, contracting, and construction. So to Vice Chairwoman, you had a question about our elevator modernization. We have several elevator modernization projects going on, one at the historic courthouse, one at the headquarters library, two at our Bradford location, and I'm forgetting, and two at the detention center. Thank you, Donna. And so with those, they have been scoped by a elevator specialist. So they're looking at the scope, what the specification should be for that modernization. We're looking in things like switchgear for the electrical capacity. And we're also having conversations about ADA accommodations. So some of our locations only have one elevator, and we want to make sure that we are doing what's appropriate and what we're supposed to do with ADA accommodations in those buildings. So I've reached out to our HR attorney in our legal department, and we're getting information, having initial conversations with staff in those buildings to see when we get to that part of the process what we would do to make sure we can accommodate them and the public. Are there any other questions on these projects here?
Commissioners, Commissioner Patel, round two.
Thank you. Just since we're on the topic of elevators, I know that the elevator in the Crown Coliseum in the office has been offline. And I didn't see that in the projects coming forward. Is there any clarification or guidance? Because I don't believe they have any timeline down there.
Absolutely. So we are looking at Crown elevators. We have that in the CIP for the next budget session. And we are working through the contract with that elevator, and it is slated to go under construction in July.
We will review the CIP for the Crown at the next one and other funds.
Thank you.
Commissioners, other questions on this? Commissioner Tyson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess the prevailing question I have is, some of these projects were slated 2 or 3 fiscal years ago, and we're just now seeing invitation for bids and projects being scoped. Is there a reason it's taken that long to just get a scope or to get bids out on some of these projects?
Various changes in the department. And those changes, we've had to ramp up, get different staff, and kind of reassess everything. I don't think the plan that we have right now that we'll have, it'll move forward quicker as we move forward. We'll be bringing something forward for the board's approval in June. I keep forgetting June is, I think we already in June, but in June to get approval, so we'll keep moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other questions before we keep moving forward? Assistant Manager Phillips, you'll continue.
Yes, sir. And just one note, the totals per page with the amounts, I do want to update that was current when I was putting these slides together at Friday of last week. So there shouldn't be any major changes, though. Okay, continuing on for other projects. These are projects from fiscal year 24 and 25. Are there any questions or discussion on these projects?
Go ahead.
All right. Continuing on here again, we have fiscal year 25 here. Any questions or discussion? So, and then these are the remaining. So to summarize our active CIP portfolio, $1,261,851.35 has been spent. We have $6,823,147.02 remaining for these projects. We also have 25 active projects that are ranging from fiscal year 23 to the present. So that's a total of 36 projects this fiscal year. So I will go into the capital improvement plan, the recommended capital improvement plan. So the recommended CIP budget totals $2,186,000. I would say that the priority projects that are recommended forward are our detention center projects, specifically the retrofitting of the cell doors, the cooling tower, and chiller additions. These investments prioritize essential building system upgrades, life safety improvements, and critical infrastructure needs, particularly within our detention facilities. And I can answer any questions about these.
Commissioner Abshur, round one.
Thank you. On here, I go to parking lot repairs, 125,000. I mean, is that really, we went to do our church parking lot, and just that was $100,000 by itself. So 125 for county facilities. I don't know if that's just to repair potholes or whatever, or.
We allocate this amount every year, so there's probably a cumulative balance, and I have to go back through, but we allocate $125,000 a year to deal with repairs, immediate repairs.
So there's already money in the,
Yes, sir.
out of there.
Yes, sir. So there's money each CIP for parking lot repairs. So this fiscal year, we are working we're currently working on repairs at 2 library locations, at Headquarters Library and at North Regional Library. At Headquarters Library, we're waiting to move forward with a tree that needs to be taken down to do that work. And then we're waiting for some work at North Regional Library that needs to be done before we can do that. So it's a yearly allocation, per my understanding.
So did you have Cliffdale?
Not for
Because
this
you know,
CIP year.
If you ride out to Cliffdale, you pass by that library, I said this every year, you ride past that library because that big tree and where the sign is, you can't even see it. And it's dangerous for people to go up, have to make that U-turn, come back down, make another U-turn just to get to the library. So I would love to see something in this with going forward for that library out there on Cliffdale.
I will add that as we evaluate moving forward these projects, we'll probably be bringing back this current fiscal year, some adjustments, amendments to handle things like that, better align some of the needs that we have. Not for the next fiscal year, but this current fiscal year.
And I understand, but this is just a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
If you're out on Cliffdale at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you're trying to get your kid there, and you got to go up, make that U-turn, come back and make that U-turn. It's just, and it shouldn't cost that much to be able to do. You've been out there. I mean, it's just taking down that tree or whatever and making it a bigger night. It's a lighter sign out there or whatever. But it's just a dangerous situation for people, and they're taking their kids to that library.
We can absolutely, with direction, look into that this fiscal year with some of the funds we may have.
No, that's
Vice Chairman Jones, round two.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You kind of beat me to my questions on last lately. I would like for us to look into Cliffdale. I live out west, and I don't want to be redundant what he said, but I do get emails and I go to the neighborhood watches, and that's their concern. So since we were talking about parking lots and libraries, I was going to ask, can they be included, or we can look into that? And this 125,000, I'm presuming that's per each parking lot for the libraries. It's not for everything, is it? Because I'm with him, you know, we've had a parking lot, whole thing done, our charge, and surely that's just for one parking lot, correct?
So my understanding is that this is a kind of general line that's countywide for all county facilities, and the team takes and they look at the needs brought forward by the department heads, and so based upon the needs that they see, that's how they determine what's ranked in each year.
Okay. But yeah, if we could look into the Cliffdale.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sure the people out west where I live would appreciate it. Thank you.
Board, we okay with having that looked at due to safety and issue raised by 2 commissioners? All right, County Manager, you got that, County Manager, or Vice Chairman, you got that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And this is just the staff, Mr. Chairman. It may be that it's already in there, but when you drive up to coming this way and you look at the Sheriff's Department, that building just needs to be power washed or whatever. It's just ugly, it's dirty. We did it about 3 or 4 years ago. It may not be in this, but if it's somewhere, but it's just, especially with that front now open, everybody rides through there and you can just see that, and that's just, it's unsightly.
That one is on the list.
That was on.
As a matter of fact, we had a bid, and I wasn't happy with the bid and we need to go back out. And one of the things we need to make sure with that is that the window seals, we got to make sure that is taken care of. Because of part of that issue is that when the seals were done the first time, it didn't take, for lack of a better term, and that some of that residue that you see is the sealant leaking down out of the windows on the building.
So I guess the question would be, before we start doing that, is whether we need to reassess the windows. That might be the first step, because I remember that water was coming through and we had sheets and towels and everything else.
That was probably part of the reason why I said we rejected the initial quote that we received.
Commissioners, other questions? Is that the last?
It's the final
So-
CIP slide, yes, sir.
Question on CIP, so 11 completed, 25 in progress, $6.8 million open. Do we have the capacity, or are we gonna prioritize our FY '27 projects based on capacity that we have from an engineering and project management standpoint, so that we get throughput and we're not just putting dollars aside and not using the dollars?
Yes. I
For
think
all
one of the
this.
things we'll bring it back on a more consistent basis and ask for reallocation of things that we can and cannot do.
So, but right now, what we're gonna see is 6.8 reallocated, based on, open projects from 23, 24, 25, 26.
Yes.
And then an additional 2.1 on the 27 CIP.
Yes.
Okay, and then, we'll have to factor that in later. And we have the capacity to do the 2.1.
Yes.
Okay.
Some of these we have to get done
Okay.
because of where they're located.
Some of the ones from 25 we need to get done, but in 23.
But there's some on this list that have become more urgent.
And so that brings me up to my next question. Commissioner, I'll go to you now.
No, Mr. Chairman, and this goes to Commissioner Tyson. Where's Mr. Jeremy? We talked about this. I think hats off to Mr. Jeremy, who has done these projects. I just want to give people their props when they do it. He's moved these things along tremendously. And so, thank you. And I just want to make sure that we recognize Jeremy for what he's done, just moving these projects along, because they did stall, but you can see all those completed ones and the ones in progress. And I think that goes to what he's doing and his department is doing and all of them are doing over there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So the only other question I have on this is, do we need additional capacity, as we talked about, project management, engineering services? I know we're still going through that process, but are we gonna see that as an additional ask? To make sure that we can finish the 25 projects plus the additional 8 projects on there?
Not as part of the budget, but I think we can do it in June as part of a separate item.
Thank you. All right, anything else on CIP? All right, we'll move to technology.
At this time, I'll call Daniel Reister, our Director of Innovation and Technology Services, to walk us through technology.
Okay, good afternoon, Commissioners. Good afternoon. So I just prepared 3 slides for you guys. One is, the first one is all of the CIF projects we completed last year. So we have, I don't know if you guys have any questions on any of these.
Commissioners, questions on these? Hold on, I think I had a question.
And these are all the ones that were completed.
Those are the completed ones, okay. Any questions on these? All right, go ahead.
All right, and then the next slide is the ones that are still in progress. A couple of these we anticipate being completed in June, late June, hopefully. With the broadcast fix is one that we're prepared to do in July when there's no meetings, because that will affect the broadcast. And then the others, as you can see here.
Well, we got 2 questions. Vice Chairman Jones, and then I'll move to Commissioner Tyson. Tyson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you elaborate? I serve on both the Public Health Board and Social Services. Appreciate the upgrades as you stated on the other one, but we still sometimes have a lot of issues when people have to join by virtual. So can you just elaborate on, I guess, is that something that's being taken care of through this progression in progress? Because again, like when people are trying to join virtually, there's still sometimes a lot of issues in both of those rooms when we have our advisory board meetings for DSS and Public Health Department.
We fixed it and found the issue.
Okay.
Miller found it out a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And so that's why we didn't have issues when we had the presentation at the agenda session last month.
Okay, great.
Now, what the BDA should do though, as well, you guys know how bad cell service is at the health department and social services. So the BDA should help with that tremendously, so.
Okay, great. And thank you for that. And that was my only two questions. And thank you, Mr. Greer, for the update.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else, Vice Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Tyson, recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have received some comments from some constituents related to our speaker system that's down in our chamber. That would be hard to hear. They say the broadcast is good, so I see we got some money allocated towards fixing our broadcast computer. Do we have anything we're going to put towards actually improving the experience for people who are live in the room?
In the room, they're physically in the room?
Yes.
Okay, do we have anything, we can look at replacing speakers or amplifying them or even just turning it up. But that may be something we just need to look at in the next meeting and see where that noise level needs to be.
And I know specifically, like with the Commissioner Council's here, I know she has a hard time being able to hear people speaking as well. So I just think that's something we need to make sure that is addressed so that people can hear well, whether they're in person or whether they're virtual.
Okay, we can definitely look at that in the next meeting and see if we can turn that up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Vice Chairman Jones, right to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as I agree with Commissioner Tyson, and speaking of the downstairs room, sometimes there's been an issue. I don't know if Danny has fixed it, but there seems to be an issue. Lately, quite a few times, we've been having a good participation from the community. So the overflow room, we've been having technical difficulties getting the other overflow room where the projector and all, sound is even stating. So has that been fixed or it's just, I think we're in room 118, so I guess that's what, room 117?
119.
19. Room 119, there's been some issues, and that's happened a few times. We've been having a lot of good participation based on some of our subject matter, but we weren't able, was that, I don't know if it's a Danny question, your question, because that's happened quite a few times this last couple of months. So I was wondering if we could get that room fixed or,
So the technology or being
Yeah, that
able to
area.
hear in the overflow room.
and so we couldn't use it.
The main problem with the audio in the overflow room is that if we turn it up, it bleeds over into the main meeting room.
Feeds back.
So we don't like to turn that up very loud. It is audible, but it is quite low, so it doesn't bleed over into the main chambers.
And I
So I
believe
guess
it's
the question would be, is could we look at that to see if we could fix that? So if we're gonna have overflow, we need to be able to use it.
Exactly.
We would need to soundproof that wall quite a bit.
There's a delay also, right?
Yeah, there is a delay.
If you hear the delay bleeding over, it really causes confusion. So, but we can definitely look at something.
That's it.
Commissioners, other question on this? Question from me, the broadcast, what broadcast is that? Is that broadcast going to our cable station?
It's all of them going out to YouTube, the cable cast to so what's down there now is we've replaced a lot of what's in that room. This is kind of the last piece to that. This is a 10-plus-year-old piece of equipment. So this will replace that, and it will help with graphics being put up, resolution, switching, all those type of things. It's kind of the brains of kind of what's happening in there.
And I don't know if it's here or not, but, as we continue to move through increased upgrades to technology, and we're doing more streaming, and a question comes in, and I think it's gonna be in your general government line, so I won't go there, I'll pause, but do we need to continue to broadcast to a cable station when we're broadcasting to YouTube? And is there efficiency around that? And if so, the piece of equipment that you're upgrading, I guess will still allow us to stream.
Correct. We'll still need it for YouTube and Facebook and those other.
Anything else on, I'm sorry, Commissioner Fairclough?
Yes, thank you. I think every commissioner in here was impressed when we were in the old historic courthouse and we had monitors up there so we could kind of monitor what was going out, and we were going out. So to have that in our regular meeting room, I think would be nice. Not multiple monitors, but at least one. I think it helps keep our attention, and so maybe that'd be helpful for some future board to be able to have that if we could include that for later. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's great feedback too, because, you guys are in there and you're doing the meeting and we don't always see, what you guys are seeing. So I think that's definitely possible.
That's a good idea.
It's a good idea. Anything else on the CIF technology, on the technology side?
And
You have
then
one
the
more
last
slide?
slide will be for FY '27, what's recommended, the recommended projects.
Questions on the recommended?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just gonna tell you, I've been up here and this, getting a connection up here on 564 has just been kind of horrendous. And Wi-Fi, yeah, I'm trying to get on. So if we can, I don't even know how y'all do it down there.
We don't get it. We don't get it either.
How the attorney don't have Wi-Fi? Okay, but anyway, Mr. Chairman, I think that's one of the things of this whole floor in terms of that, and if we can make it secure and we just have a password, because people up here doing stuff.
Yeah.
And we're
That's
sending out
definitely
stuff.
something we need to look into, because there's an access point right there. So if it's
it
not
don't
working
work.
properly for you
Nah.
guys, we definitely need to look into that. So I made a note on that.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Evans, anything else?
That was it.
Commissioner Tyson, round two.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on the recommended, my question around emergency services, with that kind of investment that we're going to look to put in server infrastructure, as we're looking to potentially do some consolidation and things like that, will that be affected? Are we sure that if we upgrade that we're not going to have to just turn right back around and replace it if we were to change our model?
Well, so where we're at now is kind of a weird place. We were going to do this last year, but we held off one more year. But now we're approaching kind of that end of life for that equipment where we kind of don't want to be in that space for emergency services. But what we're looking at will accommodate. We're trying to make sure we can accommodate if you move to a different system, if we consolidate, whatever happens there, that we're covered as far as infrastructure. And this will be, we're looking at doing some server infrastructure, the disaster recovery solution that's in place over there now, and some network equipment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioners, anything else on the recommended? So question from the chair, the utility billing, streamline payment processing, reduce systems errors, and enable online customer account. So that's for our public utilities. It's probably a question I want to make sure that it's functional as we begin to grow these water districts. We're going to have multiple districts. I want to make sure that we're able to bill across all the districts. I know it'll be one utility, but I want to make sure we're going to have the growth capacity that's expected.
So that is correct. So what's happening now is without this, they're kind of having to do a lot of workarounds because they're only allowed to open one batch. What this is going to do is give them the ability, so they can have multiple batches open, multiple cashiers, and also it will reduce a lot of the workarounds they're having to do now with the one person, and help with the refund process and all those things. So this is a scalable solution that will be a part of Unis SaaS. As we move to SaaS, this will be a kind of a add-on to that.
So this has the ability to move to a SaaS solution, which is where we're ultimately going to have to go.
This is going to SaaS probably. So our financials is going there, I'm thinking September, October will be there. And this is going to come in right behind it.
Commissioner Adams, you're recognized.
Round two. Thank you. And I see all of this and all of that, but I don't see anything about cybersecurity and any funds put to that, because that can just wreck the whole system. So I don't know if you have training for the county, for whatever, but there ought to be some line item that deals with cybersecurity.
From a capital standpoint. 'Cause
Yes.
The training stuff would be in general.
Yeah.
I mean, I would definitely welcome
No, seriously, I mean,
We have
all
a,
it takes is it only takes one, and it'll cost more than what we invest in here. Now, I mean, so if there's ability to do that, we need to hear that. I think that's important.
And we're definitely, so we have a CISO in place now, who does a great, fantastic job. And we have been investing in security every single year. But like you said, every year AI gives us a lot of benefit. But, you know, the bad actors also have AI as well.
Right.
So they're moving at the speed of light. Every day we're hit with thousands and thousands of people trying to get into our system. So definitely, if we could put a line item up here, I'd have to go back and talk with him and see where the gaps are. But we could definitely bring something like that back.
And Mr. Chairman, I just think that's of the utmost importance. I think we looked, just about a couple of months ago, one of the cities of the counties had the same issue. Yeah, and they shut down. They paid out that. And so I just think we need to make sure that that's a line item that to be able
We
to
don't
do
want to
that.
give an open checkbook, so County Manager Greer, any recommendations around that?
He's gonna bring it back, but we have a pretty, and I'm gonna say pretty robust cybersecurity team and software. There have been instances where they've even done tests, made sure that you don't click the wrong website and things like that. We're pretty robust. I'm gonna knock on wood because we're talking about, I don't want anything to happen, but he'll bring some back, but we're in good stead. I think even in some of the collaborations we have with the ICMA and their CIO, we've had a great benefit on cybersecurity. We beefed up about, and we review it every year, we beefed up about 2 years ago and made sure that our cybersecurity was with ICMA at a Boston conference.
And I do understand that, but this stuff is changing daily. With some of the boards, I say every day, this stuff is outdated almost.
Yep, every day. And like you said, every day there's cities, counties, all being impacted. So, yeah.
Thank you.
So we'll place it over in what I'm calling kind of a parking lot, so we get a dollar amount on that, then we can look at where we want to, if we want to factor that in or plug it in or adjust something. So just a request, we'll hold that ACM Shaw, we can put that there. And then County Manager Greer, may be good, kind of off-budget topic, but Commissioner Adams brings up a good point around cybersecurity. It may be good at a future work session for one of our presentations, short presentation, but what we're doing on cybersecurity from a county standpoint that may be beneficial for the commissioners. I know we don't want to tell our secrets, but you know, to give the commissioners some assurances that we are doing the things that we need to do.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just saying we'll have to do it in a closed session.
Yeah, and we've
Wherever it
already
needs to be.
we've already kind of discussed that with my security officer now, kind of doing some sort of presentation to give you guys a kind of a.
Even if it's, you know, an August time, but at a future work session, I think it'd be beneficial to get. I know it's off budget topic, so I apologize. Just a thought. Anything else on technology? All right, we'll go ahead and move to maintenance and repair.
Next, I will call Jeremy Stefanko, our Internal Services Director, up here to go over the maintenance and repairs for this year.
Thank you, ACM Shaw. I'll try to get through this brief as well. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Hope you're all doing all right. So for FY27, we had a total of 75 requests come in. Out of that, we narrowed it down to 29. The funding for that originally came out at $2,035,453. The recommended is $1,078,215. And I did add up here the total for FY26. We completed a total of 34 projects. We also did take in 4 additional projects that we have moved off to 27 with using the remaining funding we had as well. And we still have a little bit of funding left over in a reserve line as well. I think it's about 25,000 in there. Currently, we're at 5 total pending projects. We do plan to have these all completed by the end of fiscal year. The only one, the elevator cell lines, we will have to roll that one because we can only do a contract for a limited time. So we have to do another contract next fiscal year. And I also added some additional items just off topic, off of the M&R projects that we complete. One of the bigger ones was the cemetery project, which was paving. So we did get that completed as well, along with some other ones as well. And based off our, review of these additional requests of 75, we prioritized all these as 29, the critical ones that need to be complete. This was based off mitigating safety risk, ensured integrity, and preventing costly emergency repairs. By addressing these concerns, we proactively safeguard our personnel and ensure continued public access. And right here, these are just the FY27 requests, and once again, they go up to 29. I'll leave it here for a second if there's any questions related to these.
So, quick questions as we're looking in our budget document on whichever page it is.
Page 49 and 50.
49, the list of them. So this is where we don't have requested, or we don't have the recommended, this is your recommended list that would make up the 1.1 million.
Yes, sir, correct.
Okay. So then the other items that are not recommended, what happens to them?
So ideally, these will be put on into next fiscal year, and they would be prioritized again. So we're taking more, requests along with these ones being submitted back in there, and they will still go through that priority range.
Unless he gets through with all these projects and has funding, because he did very well on the list of projects this year. He was moving. And if he gets done, we want him to be busy all year. We would bring it back to the board, update the board, and say, can we move forward? You did very well.
Thank you.
You did great.
So in our updated budget document, that's going to reflect,
I believe it does reflect.
so what it's showing in here is department request at 2.0, and then it's got the recommended request is 0 down. And it's it's just showing a total of 1.1. I'm assuming, so these are the recommended amount?
Yes.
Okay. Why does it not show that? Is it showing that?
Yeah, brother.
Mine's not
It's
showing
on the first page. It was on page 49, I think.
No, mine's not showing it.
There should be
That's weird.
29 total
Yeah,
requested.
The recommended on the,
Told you was wrong with this stuff, Mr. Chair.
Okay, sorry. Commissioner Patel, question? Round one.
Yes, Mr. Baca, I just have one quick question.
Yes, sir.
These numbers seem like pretty round to me. Have you got these like jobs quoted out already, or these are just kind of placeholder numbers?
We ideally get contractor pricing, and based off that timeline, we come back and make adjustments based off, percentages going up on material, vice versa, whatever else, it may be.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Adams, you're recognized.
I guess Mr. Jeremy is reading my mind. The pressure washer's already up there, so I guess that we won't have to do that. He said it was somewhere up there. There it is. Number 29.
Anything else, Mr. Adams? Commissioner Tyson, you're recognized.
Thank you. So the process in which y'all go through and assess and rank the 29 versus the remaining that were not funded. Can you just talk about that kind of a little bit, and then what happens with the remainder projects? Is that something they have to resubmit for next year, or do those projects get moved up as we look at the next year's budget?
So they will have to resubmit them for next year. Of course, like ACM Shaw did mention as well, if we get caught up and we have extra money in one of these funding projects, normally I do complete a memo and we try to get some of them other items complete.
And then the ranking system you used, because I imagine some of these projects, depending upon which seat you're sitting in, they seem more prioritized than others. So how did you kind of come up with the system on how you rank them?
Basically, kind of the buildings, the needs, the amount of people that are coming through them buildings, and any safety concerns. Most of them are completely HVAC is the biggest concern of all of them. So normally those do prioritize first in that ranking.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioners, other questions on this? All right. We'll go ahead and, I think that is all our items for
concludes
today.
our
Look at that,
presentation.
Commissioners, 2 hours, 15 minutes. There we go. Anything else to add?
Nothing else.
We're not done yet, hold on. Commissioner, anything else?
Nothing else.
County Manager?
Nothing else.
Commissioner Tyson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for that presentation. My question would be, since we've come to the priorities, concerns, and discussion section of the agenda tonight.
Well, we haven't moved there yet, sir.
Well, we're coming to it. And so my question is, I know we had done some good groundwork together on some preliminary workshops on kind of setting some of the priorities, and there was a lot of kind of asks that came out of some of that preliminary. So will we need to resubmit those requests to kind of get some of that back, or should we expect that we would have a discussion on some of those preliminary requests that we had already submitted?
Real quick, which request? So at the last workshop.
So like Commissioner Fairclough, for example, had discussed about reducing the tax rate by 2 pennies, and he wanted to see action items coming back on what that would look like over a 5-year plan. So there was requests like that were presented and asked to be presented. So when should we expect to see those requests come back to the board?
I'll push that back. So there was a roll-up that ACM Shaw sent out after our last workshop that encompassed those.
And I did not believe, I did not do that, and I apologize, but I can work on that.
I would just say that I thought we said that we were going to hold it and then that was initial, and then we came back and said, hold it, and then look at 2 cents next year. And so from staff's perspective, that part was kind of tabled because we went from at the 5-year, and then we came back and said hold, and then 2 next year. So if I misunderstood, I apologize, but we can work on that and get that moving forward.
Can I clarify, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I think what we ended up with would not impact this year at all.
Right.
Okay, I suggested then that this year was kind of a hold the line budget, which is exactly what you recommended. And starting in fiscal '28, we would drop a penny a year for the next 5 years, and then in year 6, which was our, if I've got it right, that would be our reval year. We could drop it another 5 to get it down to 39 cents, 0.9. That was what Mr. Tyson, I believe, referred to as the Marshall Plan.
Marshall.
That's Marshall's plan.
So I guess the question I would have to clarify for staff, and if I can, Commissioner Tyson, if I can direct it to Commissioner Fairclough, if you'll yield, sir. If you'll yield, because I want to get clarity on this, and I'll turn it back over to you if you'll yield.
Yes, sir. I
So, Commissioner Fairclough, what would you, based on that, what scenario, what would you like to see staff do?
At this point in time, nothing that impacts this budget. We don't need to be talking about it, but I was just suggesting that a way to get it, we took an extremely bold step.
Yes, sir.
Going from 79.9 to 49.9. And it's been very well received, although because of the revow, a lot of people don't feel it as being the tremendous feat that we know that it was. But if we can do 49.9, then 39.9 is also doable from this point. If we have another revow in 6 years, rather than trying to bite it off all in that revow, try to go a penny a year in those intervening 4 years, and then in the year of the revow, which will be the 6th year, even though we went to try to, if we get the increase that we're probably going to get in total tax value, we can probably do the other 5 cents. That was a plan, rather than trying to drop it 2 cents a year for 5 years. So that was the latest plan that I thought of, and it doesn't need any further discussion in this budget, because that's what we're here for. But that was a thought going forward for this board to consider.
So no additional action on that item, is what I'm understanding from Commissioner Faircloth, unless another commissioner wants to add something to it. So I'll turn it back over. Give the floor back to Commissioner Tyson.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. And that was an example not meant to be exhaustive. But for example, I know ACM Shaw had presented some information about programming and about level of service and base level of service. And so we had asked some questions to come back for that. So I'm not limiting it to one item. I'm just saying, before we entertain new requests, are we going to be able to have all of our requests that's already been submitted fully dealt with and fully addressed before we look at alternative ideas?
Yes, sir, and we'll go back to the list, review the list that was sent out of the last one, see what needs to come back, and the intent would be to bring it back at the next budget workshop, if not before, an email.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
If I can get it done in an email, do you prefer
Yes,
email?
if you can email it to us ahead of time, and then if there's questions at the budget meeting, when we get to this section in the next budget meeting, we can ask those questions at that time, if that works. Because that would be the time that we'd come back and look at any parking lot items as well. So each time we can come back and look at parking lot items, if that works. Commissioner Tyson, is that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioners, we've already moved to it, so we've moved to item 5. Any additional questions or priorities or concerns where we are or looking forward? So a point of discussion, I'd sent an email out about adding a budget work session. The intent is to add it. It gives us a little bit of breathing room, plus it allows us to potentially approve the budget earlier. We had public hearings on the 1st. We have 2 public hearings on the 1st. Our agenda that morning is very light, intentionally because of the public hearing. The request that I sent out, silence was consent, but I understand some people were disconnected from the internet. So we'd look to do a meeting immediately following our Board of Commissioners meeting. Wanted confirmation. I know that doesn't work for at least one of us. I prefer to have as many members here as we can, so the only alternative to stay on that day would be to move it to 4 and go 4 to 6, break 6 to 7 for dinner, and then move to our public hearing at 7. Versus the board meeting's probably be a 9 to 10 meeting, so we'd probably go 10 to 12. So a 10 to 12 meeting versus a 4 to 6 meeting. Again, trying to be respectful. This is one of the largest items we address as a board, so the more people we can have here, the better. I know all of us have day jobs. Well, all of us but one. Does anybody have any issues? Let me ask this. Does anybody have any issues if we move it to 4 o'clock versus 10 o'clock?
I do know they have the library 40th anniversary that afternoon.
On Monday?
Yeah, on Monday.
The whole intent was to put it on the 1st, was to keep it within the meetings we're already having. And that was a recommendation from our staff. We can forego it and just stick to the original schedule and cancel the meeting and hope we finish. But we're not going to be on the same schedule that we are on now.
I'm sorry, what date did you say?
So on Monday, the 1st. Sorry to have this dialogue in a meeting, but I mean, it's Monday, so we need to make a decision. If not, then we'll stick to our regular schedule, but we're going to have to adjust what we're looking at each meeting or add another meeting.
That works for me.
What's that?
The last thing you said is skip this one on Monday, and if we have to add another one in.
We're going to have to add
or
another one
adjust, yeah.
because we're staying 2 to 2.5 hours. I think that's the best thing for staff as well as us. We're also trying to do these during daytime hours versus night to be respectful of our staff as well, or doing a blend of them. So we will look to add another budget workshop. I'm going to ask the board. I'm going to ask the clerk to send that out to the board. I will ask the board to read their emails and please respond to the clerk. And again, if you don't respond, then we're going to assume it's okay. Or we're going to go ahead and go with what the majority has. Yes.
I'm sorry, Chairman, just want to clarify the library item that Commissioner Adams mentioned. It's at 3 o'clock that day.
Yeah, 3 o'clock.
So 3 to?
I think 3 to 4.
Well, they had 5 on mine, but I don't know.
Vice Chairman Jones.
Yes, I'm not available because I had made other plans. I was going by the first schedule.
So we just not do it at 4. Not do it in the morning, not do it at 4. So we'll look to reschedule another date.
So we not have a quorum to do it at the other time, period, in the morning? We can't do it in the morning.
We do have a quorum. My intent is to try to ensure that every commissioner, based on the schedule that was outlined, is available for each of the meetings, either in person or even virtual if we need to, but we have to have in-person quorum.
Guess we have to reschedule that.
Yeah, we're just going to have to add one. I'm trying to be, again, I think where we can make accommodations around budget meetings, I think it's important that we do that. Other meetings, I tend to be more flexible, but this is the heaviest lift that we have. So we'll look for another date that works in and around one of our other meetings. Madam Clerk, if we could take a look at that. You can see everybody's schedules, I think, so we'll take a look at that and send out a couple dates and get it locked in shortly after that. So we'll not do the budget workshop on the 1st. We will just have 2 public hearings. Remember, board, we have a public hearing at 9 and at 7 p.m. on Monday, the 1st.
Then I'll request that myself, and we can keep our regular meeting then. Yeah. We can just keep our regular meeting.
All right. Other questions or other comments on the workshops? Anything else we need to add? All right, looking forward, ACM Shaw, our next series of topics will be, sorry.
Other fund, well, we'll bring back the education model at the top of the hour.
Correct.
And cyber security, if there's anything there, if you want that there. And then other funds, which would be the Crown, the solid waste, fire, recreation, and then we will move into compensation, going off memory, compensation,
That's right.
vacancies, personnel, anything else, staff, goes up.
Proposed compensation, COLA, career step plan, and benefits.
Thank you.
And then we'll move into commissioner discussion comments. That's when we get into the parking lot items or update any of those. We'll touch on the front side of this. So that date is going to be the June 9th meeting. So County Manager Greer, if we can make sure that Superintendent Bracy or somebody that can speak to the school side. So we'll have on June 9th will be the update on the debt models, and then we'll move into the funds, and then we'll move into the personnel and compensation, and then commissioner discussion. Vice Chairman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did I overlook it in regards to the community funding? Is it on here? I don't see
It's
it.
towards the bottom.
Oh, it's at the bottom.
But I'm
okay.
gonna make a request of that before we
Yeah,
leave
community
tonight.
funding, okay.
Anything, so board, that's our next topic, so we can be prepared for that. Again, we're managing an efficient day. Thank you for staff for the presentations. Real quick, Board, I do, if you have not taken a look at the community funding requests, I know that's later in the cycle. I don't want to talk about it tonight. If you haven't looked at it, I'd encourage you to take a look at it. I've got copies of it. We set aside 1.4. There's about $3 million in requests.
They've got the revised one. Okay. The total, okay, I was briefed during this meeting that, my staff, go ahead and just tell me. Thank you, Gaffney, go ahead.
Please go to the podium. Thank you. And I'm not getting into discussion on community funding. I just want to bring it up because what we want to do is maybe have this discussion earlier, because as the staff is putting together the budget, if we make whatever recommendations we have to put on here, it takes staff a little bit of time to put this all together, make sure that we deconflict any ethics things we need to deconflict as well. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hello, Commissioners. Just to let you know that the community funding will be revised. We found an error that we're going to get corrected. The amount is the same.
Okay.
It's just some of the vendors, nonprofits amounts are incorrect.
Okay. So if you can email us that tomorrow,
Yes,
if that
sir.
works, or tomorrow is fine. Board, my ask of you is to begin to look at this and think about it, so that we can have some discussions about it earlier in the process versus later. And if we have time at the end of our next meeting, maybe we'll begin to have some conversation around it. I don't want to do it now. I know this is a sensitive item. But I just want us to start thinking about what's out there. Again, they'll send us the updated list tomorrow.
I have a question.
Sure.
Thank you. So I want to be clear on this. These are the right organizations, but you did state that some of the amounts are incorrect, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Board, any questions on community funding? I know we're all starting to get emails about it and phone calls, so I just want to make sure we begin to look at this and maybe earlier rather than later. Yes, sir.
And I'm not going to go into that, but I would like to see a line item, because we talked about it previously with the boards, of where they got additional funding from. Is that in here?
It's not in the book, but I do believe we do have it.
Okay, so
And we sent that out.
people are getting funding from all of that, and so.
Okay.
And I don't know how the application process went, whether this is, I guess my thing would be, are you creating a new program from scratch? And if you don't have this funding, can you continue it? Or are we assisting in an ongoing program, I guess?
So there's a text explanation, in the budget document.
Okay.
In the budget document, there's a text explanation of it. I think if you want additional detail of the submission, if there's a certain submission, I would ask that you ask staff for that specific one, so you can look at it versus sending out everything in its totality. I'll go to Commissioner Tyson, then back to Commissioner Vice Chairman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The other question I have revolves around the timing in which we solicit applications for this. It's my understanding from talking with some of these folks that it comes at the end of the year during the holiday season.
Yes.
And is there a reason why we're choosing that particular time window when people are out of town with their families and traveling and everything else, that we're having that such a short window to put those applications in?
It's just usually our timeline. We start with the CIP, any new request. We start with that in October. We move straight into December to January 15th or 31st that they have to submit. And it's just so we can keep on our schedule to prepare a draft to the county manager of the recommended budget. Those are so many steps. I mean, we actually do a budget kickoff October 1st. Budget is all year long. It's just to stay on a timetable. But if we need to adjust, we've got a new member of our staff. Maybe she can take that on.
Is there any way, Mr. Chairman, we could have a discussion on maybe moving that earlier towards the end of the year?
We can have a discussion.
Not
when we
right
get-
now,
We
but
can,
just
yeah, we can
in
have a
general.
discussion about it, yeah. Or what's the total time period on it, of the submission?
We give them a month and a half to 2 months.
All right, we'll get into the policy part of it another time, if that's all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if I'm reading this correctly, on this original budget where it says a minus, does this mean that of us, I see the agency request, does this mean that they're not being provided anything? Or am I not reading correct? Like, for instance, example, Blue Stars, okay. Right, but, okay, all right. So this is, that's what I'm saying, so they didn't receive anything last year, okay. That's what I want to make sure, if it has a minus, that means they didn't receive anything last year. And this is a request, okay, so that is correct then, all right.
And remember,
I just wanna
it
make
was a new
sure.
process this year with Unified.
Okay, so that means they didn't get, okay. And this is their requested, I just want to make sure, thank you.
It will be revised, though.
Yeah,
I
you're
want to
gonna
say
send
some
that
of
out,
those.
yeah.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you.
The format's still the
Yes.
same.
And I just happened to just, for random, pull their name, we don't want to get any confusion with that.
So two things out of this. So we're going to get an updated email that's going to reflect that. It's also, we're going to get the updated spreadsheet again that has the other funding sources as requested. And then again, board, I would just ask that we begin to take an earlier look at this so that we can have some discussions and make some earlier decisions that will be helpful to our staff, so it's not the last thing that we talk about. Anything else, board members, alibis, or anything any other discussion or questions before we move to adjourn?
Close session.
Oh, I'm sorry. I kept the
trying to
meeting
get out of here.
I kept the meeting at 2:30.
Yeah, you got another meeting.
Anything else?
Yeah, I got another meeting.
Questions? All right, if not, hearing none, Vice Chairman, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed session.
I make a motion that we go into closed session for a client, pursuant to client, I'm sorry. Pursuant to client attorney privileges 143-318-11A3.
Second the motion.
We got a motion to move into closed session for attorney-client privilege. It's been seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll ask for your vote. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Unanimous.
And we'll go ahead and prepare the room for closed session if you need to. At this time, I'll go ahead and take a motion to come out of closed session.
Yes, I move we come out of closed session for matters pursuant to attorney-client matters 143318-11A3.
Second the motion.
We've got a motion to come out of closed session for attorney-client privileges, been properly seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll ask for your vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. And there's no action for the board coming out of closed session. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Vice Chairman Jones.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We've got a motion to adjourn, it's properly seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand. And we're adjourned. Thank